Hey there, Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. I hope you brought your coffee because this is going to take a while. I'm going to show you how to use the BS jig. And I'm also going to show you how to set up the fence. There's three things you have to do to use this jig. You have to set the fence, then you have to set the depth stop of bit number 1 and the depth stop of bit number 2. And you have to do it in that order. You can't set the bit stop until after you've set the fence depth, the fence itself. So it's already set to by default to be to 1/4 inch material. Quite simply, you put it on here. Now this knob I put is closer to this edge than it is to this edge, and you want this to be closer to the end when you put it on your base. So, and then when you set it here, like so, and you lock it down, so these are flush. Check it sideways to make sure these are nice and flat to each other, and then it's flush here, and then you can snug this down. This is now set to 1/4 inch material. So if I take a 1/4 inch material, and I can check it real quick with my drill bit right here. And this is pretty close to what I would need. The fence is now set. It's not going to blow out on the inside corner. And once I set the depth of this, it will not blow out on the outside of it. So the fence itself, though, controls where this bit is in compared to the inside edge. And that's why you want to set it first. Then when you set the depth at that point, it will determine how close it comes to the outside edge. So we'll get into the depth stop here in just a second. Let's take a quick look at other examples of different material then to set this at. Instead of 1/4 inch, I want to set it to 7/16. So I can do pins on this one. Well, that means that I'm going to have to move this fence. Since it's set to 1/4 inch and it's flush, if I want this to do 7/16, I have to move this fence that direction 3/16 of an inch. So I set my anchor jig to 3/16 of an inch, and I will take and extend this like so, and I'll set this using my fence to set it 3/16 of an inch further out. I'm going to set it on its side, making sure that these are nice and flat to each other now. And then I snug it down, and it looks like we're ready to go. So this is now set to 7/16 material. So if I take my bit and set it in here, and look at there, I am inside this area. And actually the depth of this bit is already good too, because I'm not going to come out here using the bit at its full length. Now this bit is 2 inches long. It's a Harbor Freight bit, and we talked about the bits and the tools that you need to do this job. This bit I found works for any material from 1/4 inch material up to 3/4 inch material without any problem. I do have the two longer drill bits that I bought. So far, I have not seen where I actually need to use them. But I'm glad I have them just in case. But it is optional. You can do it with just these two Harbor Freight bits. So if I drop that in there, this tells me that this thing is now ready to go. I could start drilling holes right now if I wanted to. But the thing you want to do is that you have bit number 2. That will drill the hole out to the proper size for the exact bamboo skewer that you're using, because most of them are between 1/8 of an inch and 9/64. They're not all created equal. That's why I use the 2-bit stage, because I do have some that I can drill with this one, and those bamboo skewers will actually fit into the hole immediately. I don't have to re-drill it larger. But what I do most of the time is I use this, I drill the hole, then I come back, set my depth stop, and to set this bit to the proper depth, now that this one's set to the proper depth, to set this one, you just want to set it to that depth there. So that's what you want. Now I happen to know that's 1 1/4 inches. My bit is 2 inches long. My base is 3/4 inch. So that means that's 1 1/4 inches sticking out. So if I set this to 1 1/4 inches, that won't quite reach it. So we have to use the smaller one. And all I have to do is set this to 1 1/4 inches. And now we're ready to drill these out. So now I can drill the pins. My fence is set, and my distance that I need for these two are both set to the right depth so I don't over drill and come out the outside. So that's how quick it was to set it up to this. So let's set it up to a 3/4 inch. The thicker the material is, the easier it is to do a BS pin, quite frankly, because you have more latitude of where along there you can put your fence. So let's put this one in place here. Okay. So I'm going to put this one on right here. Let me clamp it just so that it kind of doesn't move around. Now let's set our fence to the 3/4. Now, anything over 1/2 inch, I have to spin my base 180 degrees. And I no longer measure it, but it doesn't matter. I don't need to measure when it's this big, and you'll see why here in a second. You got so much leeway here when doing this. So I'm going to bring that down. I'm going to take my number 1 bit, drop it in the pinhole. And now if you take a look at this, can you see that okay? Let me zoom in just a tiny bit for you. Maybe that'll help you to see it a little better. Yeah, that'll work. So if you look, here's the inside edge, here's the outside edge of your board number 2. So you want to go in inside of this corner and don't want it to come out past here. So I can set this wherever I want in here. Right now I drew this black line, so I can take this, set it pretty much on that black line, and snug it down. And my fence is now, whoops, make sure I'm nice and square. Set it, and that's looking pretty good. So now I can take, and now the only thing left is you have to set the stop for your secondary bit. And you want it to be at least 1 1/4 inches. But because this is such big material, I can actually go more than that. So I'm going to take advantage of this thickness. And what we're going to do is let's take a look at how deep this thing goes. In fact, if I don't use one at all, it would go that deep. Now this is about 2.5 inches. So, but you don't really need to make the pin that long. So I'm going to take that, and that makes this about 1 7/8 of an inch. This is 5/8 of an inch. So this makes it, and that's actually, if I line it up to my mark, that's actually not too deep. You're still plenty far away from here. So I can put this pin in here. So I quickly and easily now am ready. I use the fence is set. I don't need a depth stop on the bit. And this bit has the depth stop set to where I need it for 3/4 inch material with the fence set to what it's set at right now. This bit will work right here. So I'm ready to drill holes that quick and easy here. So now I've set this fence up for 2 different scenarios, quick and easy, from the same, using the BS joinery jig to do it. So now I'm ready to go. So now that I have done all this, this is how you set the fence and you set the jig. First you set the fence, then you set the depth of the cut of the drill bit for bit number 1, and depending upon what you end up with here for your length, based on where it's going to be on your material, you can sight it or you can measure it. When you get it set to where you want it, Then you set your secondary drill bit using a stop so that your bits are all set, ready to go, and it's ready to drill that out. Now, obviously, this is still set to the 3/4, but that's how you do it. So if I wanted to, I could reset this to any material. If you're at 1/2" material or less, you can set this fence using an anchor jig to set the fence. So like if I wanted to set to the 1/2" material, I'm going to set this to a 1/4 inch. The initial 1/4 inch plus a 1/4 inch to get to 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go from 3/16, which is what I needed for 7/16 material. And I'm going to set this to my 1/2 inch. So that's set to a 1/4 inch depth. So we're going to set this like so. Make sure that I'm nice and square, lock it down, and now if I take my 1/2 inch material, take my drill bit, and because this is bigger than 7/16, I already know that my depth is going to be good. I don't need a depth stop on my bit number 1. And I set my fence against there, and guess what? It looks like a good drill bit drilling to me. Like I said, the thicker the material is, the easier it is to set the fence so you can find that sweet zone between this point and this outside edge with your drill bit. And as far as the depth, that's a pretty good distance. But if I want to really figure out what depth I want, I could set it to 1.25 inches. But if I want, I just set 2 lines in there. And now I can take my other drill bit and set it in here. And right now, if I set this one in between there, you can see just by sight, that bit is still good right at that. If I took this off, then that probably would go too deep. It would almost come out here. So it looks like a 2.5 minus 5/8. 1 7/8 is about what I want for 1/2 inch material with the fence set where it is. So this is actually set then. I could do 1/2 inch material that quick and easy. I am set now to drill holes. And the way we drill them is quite simple too. So let's drill a hole real quick. Now that you've seen how the fence sets up and all that, I'm still zoomed in here, don't I? There we go. Now that we've done that, so now let's take and try to drill these holes. I don't know how good this thing is coming out now, but I'm going to drill some holes. And we're going to see if this thing will work for the 7-inch material. So let's set it up for 7-inch and let's drill the holes. So I'm just going to set this. I'm set to 1/4 inch. I think I'll just do this by eye. Let's just do this by fun. So I'm going to put this in here. Bring this bit in. And right there, it looks good to me. That's inside of here. It stopped right there. So 1.25 inches. So I'm going to set this to 1.25 inches. Oops. Close enough. And now, when I drill this, you can see it's going to stop in between. So we're ready to drill. That quick and easy. So now I can just take my billet, drop it in there. Let me make sure this is tight because we don't want this to move on our depth stop. And let's drill some holes. Actually, got to drill with this one first. So let's drill our pilot holes. So we can put this on here. So where we want to drill it? We're 4 inches wide. So let's do this. Let's drill it. Oh, I numbered my holes. So you know, from left to right, hole number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They're a 1/4 inch in from the edge, and they're a 1/2 inch apart. So I can set this here, And as to where I want to put my pins, if I want it to be symmetrical, it's easy to do with this jig. I can set it right up to this edge, right here, and clamp it in place. And I like to double clamp it when possible, like so. And I'll set to this edge. So if I use bit number 4, that puts me in 3/4 of an inch in from the edge. So I'm going to use bit number 4 and bit number 2, and let's drill 2 pins right into here. Make sure you clean it out as you go. And now we're going to do 2. Okay. Now let's take and set it up to this side. So I'm going to set it flush to this edge, like so. And let's put a clamp on it right here. Now I used 4 and 2, so I'm going to use 2 and 4 again. 2 is the same distance from this edge as 4 was from this edge. So let's drill 2 more holes. And then number 4. Boy, it wouldn't come out. And there we go. We've drilled 4 holes. And if you look, you can see a nice symmetrical pattern on the 4 holes. So now I can take my pins that I have pre-cut. Oh, we do need to drill them one more time. Duh. Okay. See what happens when I get on camera? So now we can re-drill these holes. Since they're pilot holes, we just have to follow it. So feel your angle. You'll see there's no pin, and there's nothing on the inside either. No damage. These pins have all hit the area that we want them to. So this now is ready to have pins. So I'll take, before I start number 2, I'll just take these pins and glue them up and put them all down inside. That one must be shorter. Oh yeah, those are shorter. That looks weird. Oh, here we go. Here's a longer one. There, now you can see they're all the same depth. And they're all pretty much the same angle too. If you look at it, you can see that they are pretty much right together. If I take a straight edge and put it on there, you can see it's pretty much touching everything. So I got a nice symmetrical pattern. We drilled these holes. All it's left is to smear a little glue on this and shove it back in the hole and then let it dry and then cut it off. So that's how you do your drilling. Now let's take, in number 2, I'm going to do a couple of things. Because you just seen the easy part. Where do we see? We're going to show you how to do double pin. So that if your material is wide enough, thick enough, you can actually do a double pin so you can toenail in. And I'll show you how to do that because we revamped our jig, if you didn't notice, with another slot. That is so that I can actually double pin like 3/4 inch down to about 1/2 inch material. We can double pin that, and I'll show you how to do that by using this in the next one. But I think you've got what you need to really use this thing. You now have the information and see how to use it. It's real easy to use. And now the more I use it, the more I realize that there's some other things I can do with it too. And that's what we're going to start working on. This thing is already 20 minutes long, so I think that I'm going to cut it off right here. And then I'll start on number 2. And I think it's probably not going to be out till tomorrow because it's already pretty late in the day. I don't think I'm going to get the second half done. So I'll get these pins done and I'll cut them off. So when I start part 2, you do want to come back for that because that is where you're going to learn how to, I can show you how to do double toenailing BS pins, as well as how to use it on very large material. And I'll show you how to be able to actually double pin from 2 different directions. And if that's not enough, I'm also going to show you how to do a BS pin that is what I call a BS dry joint. In other words, no glue, strictly BS pins holding that joint together. And you'll be able to take the pin back out so that you can take it back apart. And the beauty of that is that if you're working on something that you got to put together and take apart and put together and take apart, you can use this method until you're ready to put your pins in and lock it in place. Or if you're using some other technology to actually join it, you can hold it together with the pins temporarily and then pull them back out. Just drop a dead pin into the hole that you had and cut it off and clean it, and you won't hardly be able to tell that you ever did it. So there's a lot of advantages to that dry, the BS dry joint also. So I'll show you how to do that if you come back. So put that on your list. I'll let you know when it's done. I think we got everything here. We got off to a pretty good start. If you're missing something about how to do the basic joint and how to set up your fence and your drill stop, because you only have to do 3 things. Set your fence, set bit number 1, the depth, and then set bit number 2, the depth based on bit number 1. So you have to follow those steps to get everything to fall into place and give you a perfect pin. And next time, I'm going to, in next day or so, I'm going to try to do it tomorrow, but it'll be out 2 days at the latest. I'm going to show you how to do accurate pinning and consistent pinning on even as thin as 1/4 inch material. And we're going to do some double pinning on some bigger stuff that's going to knock your socks off. And we're also going to get into showing you how to do an aesthetically pleasing pattern of pins on here using the pin thing, so that you can actually set up a nice little pattern if you want to, multiple different levels of it. You'll see what I'm talking about, and stick around because that's going to be fun. That makes using the BS pin not only making the joint stronger, but you can make a really cool looking joint. A lot better looking than a pocket hole joint, and I think every bit as nice looking, or at least every bit as strong as any dovetail joint out there. In fact, I think that on 3/4 inch material, I can make a BS joint stronger than you can make it using dovetail joinery. And when I get done tomorrow, you'll think so too. You'll say, yep, you're right. I think that is stronger. So you be sure to come back. I want to thank you for being here. If you learned something here or you like this video, hit that like button. If you have any thoughts about this, comments, questions, leave them in the comments. I do read them all. Most importantly, please come back again because I'm nowhere near done. Thanks, and we'll see you guys again very soon.